So, um, I want you to think about the last time you were, like, standing at the edge of the ocean.
Oh, yeah. Always a powerful place.
Right. Or maybe looking up at the stars or whatever it is for you. And you just get overwhelmed by this sudden, just crystal clear realization about your own life.
Yeah, those moments where everything just suddenly clicks.
Exactly. Everything
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. So you pull out your phone,
Mm.
right? You go to text a friend trying to share this massive, life-altering epiphany.
I know exactly where this is going.
But as your thumbs hit the keyboard, all that profound magic it completely flattens.
Yeah.
And you end up typing something like, wow, the beach is pretty crazy today. Feeling good.
Which doesn't capture it at all.
Not even close.
Yeah.
You just couldn't put it into words. And we always blame ourselves for that, right? Like, oh, I'm just not articulate enough.
Right, a failure of vocabulary.
Yeah. But what if your lack of words isn't a personal failure? What if it's actually proof that human language is essentially a compression algorithm?
A bottleneck.
The literal bottleneck that is slowing down human evolution.
It's a wild premise.
It really is. Welcome to your custom deep dive. Today, we are exploring this staggering piece of writing by Rajesh Chowdhury.
From the platform, the Eternal Thread, right?
Yep, The Eternal Thread. It was originally published under the Hindi title. Let me make sure I say this right. Allah later. Hey, I try. But for you listening, that beautifully translates to when the channel widens. Language, raw transfer, and the acceleration of realization.
It's such an evocative title.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this because right out of the gate, Chowdhury throws down this massive provocation that language is literally lossy compression.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant way to reframe human history, honestly, because, when we talk about a compression algorithm in computing...
Like zipping a file.
Exactly, like taking a massive rich file, say a high-definition photograph, and squeezing it down into a smaller size so it can be transmitted over a network.
Right, because otherwise it takes way too long to send.
Exactly. And to do that, the algorithm actually has to discard data. It identifies the subtle details, the gradients of color, and just throws them away to make the file small enough.
Wow.
So Chowdhury is arguing that human language evolved to do the exact same thing to human consciousness.
Okay, that is fascinating.
Right, because language was a survival tool. It was designed to point out a tiger in the bushes. It wasn't designed to transmit the full, multidimensional weight of a spiritual epiphany.
So basically, every time I open my mouth to speak, I am just sending a low-resolution JPEG of my mind.
That is literally it.
It's like walking around with this high-definition, IMAX-level internal world, but you're forced to communicate with everybody else via a cheap walkie-talkie.
Yes. And Chowdhury uses this great analogy about driving a car to explain what this feels like on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, the manual transmission analogy.
Right. So think about driving a manual car. We receive a thought, we push in the cognitive clutch, search our brains for the right vocabulary.
Hoping we don't stall out.
Exactly. We translate that raw emotion into recognizable syntax, and then we just sort of hope the other person catches the gear.
That sounds exhausting when you put it like that.
It is exhausting.
Oh.
But wait, I want to go back to something you just said. You mentioned that these thoughts arrive as multidimensional.
Yeah, because the source actually uses the term quantum field to describe where these thoughts even come from.
It does, yes.
And I want to ground that for a second because, are we talking about actual subatomic physics here? Or is Chowdhury just using quantum as a sort of cool metaphor for the subconscious?
That's a vital distinction to make.
Yeah.
And, Chowdhury is using the framework of quantum mechanics to describe the fundamental nature of information and reality, but not in some kind of mystical, magical way.
Okay.
So in quantum physics, a particle exists in a state of superposition.
Right, like a wave of multiple possibilities.
Exactly. Until it is observed or measured, at which point it collapses into a single definitive state.
Like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, precisely. So Chowdhury applies this directly to consciousness. Before you speak, an idea or a feeling exists in your mind as a concurrent wave.
So it's everything all at once.
Yes. It contains sensory data, emotional resonance, historical memory, and abstract realization all at exactly the same time. It's totally holistic.
Oh, man. But the moment you try to communicate it...
You force that wave to collapse. You collapse it into a linear sequence of symbols. Noun, verb, adjective, one word after another.
That's chopping it up.
Right. So the quantum aspect refers to that rich, concurrent state of the idea before the compression algorithm of syntax slices it into linear time.
I love that. It's kind of the difference between trying to describe an insane dream using like an Excel spreadsheet versus just plugging a USB drive into someone's brain and letting them experience the dream directly.
That is a perfect way to look at it. The spreadsheet forces you to categorize this wild, holistic emotion into columns and rows. That's language.
But formatting that spreadsheet takes so much effort. Which makes me wonder, are we just so used to this manual translation process that we don't even realize we're utterly exhausted by the friction of basic communication?
Well, what's fascinating here is how universal that unseen exhaustion actually is.
Right.
We spend a massive percentage of our cognitive energy just formatting the spreadsheet, as you put it.
Yeah.
But Chowdhury takes it a step further, and this is where it really gets profound.
Okay, right.
It is not just about personal daily exhaustion. This accepted loss of fidelity, this friction, has actually governed the pace of collective human realization over vast stretches of time.
Wait, really? The whole human race?
Think about it. If 90% of a profound realization's depth is lost every single time it is forced through the bottleneck of language,
Then we're barely sharing anything.
right, the collective pool of human understanding is only filling up with those tiny, highly compressed drops of information. The channel is narrow. Therefore, the evolution of our shared reality is fundamentally bottlenecked by the speed limit of our words.
Which perfectly sets up the next massive paradigm shift the article explores. Because if manual translation is this exhausting...
And this lossy.
Yeah, and if it's artificially slowing down our evolution,
Yeah.
what happens if we upgrade the vehicle?
Exactly.
Because we are moving into a technological era where bypassing this linguistic compression entirely isn't just science fiction anymore. Like, this is real stuff happening in labs today.
This is where we pivot from philosophy to emerging technology. Chowdhury discusses the coming shift toward the direct, raw transfer of information between minds.
Mind-blowing.
We are talking about entirely bypassing the vocal cords, bypassing the fingers typing on a screen, and bypassing the linear structure of language altogether.
So no more spreadsheets.
No more spreadsheets. Through advanced neural interfaces, think of the early iterations of brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, that we are already seeing develop today. The channel is about to widen significantly.
Okay, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. How do these interfaces actually attempt to capture that raw data? Because, a brain isn't exactly a hard drive with a USB port. You can't just plug in and drag a file over.
Right. It's a bit messier than that. But at a fundamental level, your thoughts and feelings correlate to incredibly complex patterns of electrical activity across billions of neurons.
Like sparks firing in the dark.
Exactly. Now, right now, to get that pattern out of your head, your motor cortex has to tell your mouse to move or your hands to type.
Which is the manual transmission again.
Yep. But emerging non-invasive EEGs, and certainly the invasive neural implants in development, they aim to read those electrical firing patterns directly at the source.
Oh,
And once mapping becomes sophisticated enough, the technology doesn't translate the pattern into English or Hindi. It simply transmits the raw neural pattern to a receiver, which recreates the corresponding pattern in another mind.
So you aren't sending the compressed JPEG.
No, you are transferring the raw original file.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And I have to push back a little here on behalf of the listener.
Sure, go ahead.
Because while this sounds technologically amazing, it also sounds absolutely terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
I hear you on the idea of a frictionless channel, right?
Yeah.
But human brains are fundamentally messy. If my partner is having a raw, unfiltered panic attack,
Yeah.
beaming that high-fidelity panic directly into my brain doesn't sound calm or coherent. It sounds entirely contagious. My own brain is noisy enough.
That's a very fair point.
How does Chowdhury's framework account for the transfer of negative or chaotic data without just short-circuiting everyone involved?
That is the most common and perhaps the most important immediate fear when discussing raw transfer. And Chowdhury addresses it by asking us to look at where our current noise actually comes from.
Okay, where does it come from?
A massive amount of our interpersonal anxiety is generated by ambiguity, the static of language. Let's take your example of the partner having a panic attack. When they try to communicate that panic with words, the compression algorithm often fails.
Right, they can't find the words.
They might lash out, they might say something hurtful, or they might just shut down completely.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And you, as the receiver, are left trying to decode those compressed, distorted signals. Are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Are they in danger?
Ah. And that ambiguity creates my own secondary spiral of anxiety.
Precisely.
I see. So the spreadsheet is broken, so I panic trying to read it.
Exactly. But if you were to receive the raw transfer of their state, the ambiguity vanishes instantly. You would experience the exact texture and origin of their overwhelm.
This is not a mystery anymore.
Right. It isn't a loud voice yelling in your head. It is a clear, complete impression. By removing the static of translation, you remove the misunderstanding.
Wow.
Instead of contagious panic, complete clarity often breeds immediate empathy. You understand exactly what they're feeling without the distorting filter of their defense mechanisms.
That makes a lot of sense.
So the raw transfer doesn't necessarily mean louder. It means higher fidelity.
So without the static of ambiguity, the music is actually clearer, even if it's heavier or richer.
Yes, beautifully put.
Okay, I can see how that changes the day-to-day dynamic between people.
Mm-hmm.
But Chowdhury isn't just talking about making couples therapy more efficient, right?
Not at all.
He is pointing toward the evolution of reality itself.
Hmm.
So what does this all mean for the big picture? Like, where is this wider channel actually taking us?
To understand the destination, we really have to grapple with a concept Chowdhury introduces called the law of realization and conservation.
Okay.
Within the framework of the eternal thread, the universe is not just a random assortment of dead matter. It is a participatory, information-based system.
Okay. Tracking with you.
Every time a conscious being makes an honest observation, every time you have a moment of clear participation with reality, you generate information.
Like the realization on the beach.
Exactly. And Chowdhury argues that this realization doesn't just disappear into the ether, it is conserved.
Hold on. Conserved where? Like a cosmic hard drive. We are back to some pretty dense terminology here.
Yeah, it's less like a hard drive and more like the very fabric of the system itself. Think of it like adding heat to water.
Okay.
You can't necessarily see the heat, but the energy is conserved in the water. Over millennia, as human beings have suffered, loved, realized, and communicated, we have been adding information to the collective field.
We're heating up the water.
Yes. The system accumulates this complexity. According to the law of realization and conservation, when a system accumulates enough coherent information, it eventually hits a tipping point.
A phase change.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just as water turns to steam when it hits a specific threshold of energy, consciousness shifts to a new dimension of complexity when it hits a specific threshold of realized information.
So, to use an analogy for you listening right now, if our current communication, using the narrow bottleneck of language, is like filling a massive swimming pool drop by drop.
Which is very slow.
Very slow. Then this raw neural transfer is like turning on a fire hose.
It absolutely is.
If we are sharing uncompressed, high-fidelity realizations with each other instantly, without losing 90% of the data to linguistic friction, the collective reservoir is going to fill up exponentially faster.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your fire hose analogy perfectly captures the acceleration. And this acceleration is what brings us closer to what Chowdhury calls a fifth-dimensional possibility.
Okay, let's demystify that term too, because fifth-dimensional possibility sounds a bit esoteric.
It does. It sounds a bit sci-fi. But in this context, it simply means breaking free from the strict, linear constraints of our current cognitive processing.
Our current reality being the fourth dimension.
Right, which is defined by experiencing time as a strict line. Past, present, future, one word after another.
Got it.
The fifth-dimensional possibility represents a collective phase change where humanity operates concurrently, where we can process holistic, uncompressed reality together without having to slice it into linear, time-bound syntax.
It's almost hard to imagine.
It is, but there is a crucial distinction we cannot overlook here. The technology itself, the neural lace, the brain-computer interfaces, does not create the evolutionary shift.
Right, because a wider pipe doesn't magically purify the water flowing through it.
Precisely. The technology merely drastically changes the conditions under which realization spreads. The shift is, and always will be, a matter of human consciousness.
The human element.
Yes. Entropy actually acts as a quiet companion in this process, clearing away the older, simpler, more rigid linguistic forms of society, so these new, highly coherent, interconnected structures can take root.
Wow.
The sheer volume and speed of shared realization dramatically shortens the distance to that next threshold of reality.
It is profoundly optimistic.
It is.
But look, looking at this fire hose of data, if we are transferring pure uncompressed emotion, doesn't that mean we're also transferring pure uncompressed neuroses?
Yes, that is the flip side.
Because faster isn't always better, right? Which brings us to the most vital part of Chowdhury's article. A concept he calls the quiet caution. We really have to look at the risks of widening this channel before we are truly ready for it.
Yes, and Chowdhury is uncompromising on this point. A wider channel is completely neutral. It is just infrastructure.
It just moves data.
Exactly. It simply transfers whatever is there. If we are raw transferring high-fidelity realizations and empathy, that is wonderful. But what if we are transferring highly contracted, distorted, fearful patterns?
That sounds like a nightmare.
A wider channel could very easily amplify chaos and ego rather than clarity. The autonomous vehicle is incredibly efficient, but the destination still depends entirely on the consciousness of the driver.
Yeah.
And Chowdhury frames this vulnerability around a deeply striking question. As we approach this technological leap, are we participating in reality as tenants of the quantum field? Or are we still trying to operate as owners trying to control it?
Wow. Tenants versus owners.
Yeah.
That is a brilliant way to frame human behavior. Let's really pull that apart. An owner mindset is about domination, right? It's about extracting value, controlling the narrative, and manipulating the environment for personal gain.
Absolutely.
If I am an owner, I look at raw neural transfer as just another tool to force my will onto others, or, to market my product directly into their subconscious.
Exactly. And a tenant, by contrast, understands that they are a temporary custodian.
Just passing through.
Right. A tenant respects the space. A tenant seeks to harmonize with the environment rather than exploit it. They listen just as much as they project.
So essentially, if we approach this new frontier of raw transfer with an owner mindset, it's going to be catastrophic.
It could be, yes.
Just look at how we handle the internet today. Social media was supposed to be a wider channel that connected humanity.
But we approached it with an owner mindset.
Exactly. Driven by engagement algorithms, ego, and this desperate need to be right. It amplified our anxieties and our tribalism at light speed.
The technology didn't save us. It just put a massive magnifying glass on exactly who we already were.
So if we take that same unevolved ego and plug it directly into a raw neural network, we aren't just typing angry words anymore. We are radiating pure, uncompressed rage directly into the collective system.
And this raises an important question for every single person who will live through this transition, which includes all of us.
Scary thought.
When the friction of language is gone, you can no longer hide behind misunderstood words. You can't craft a clever passive-aggressive tweet or fake a polite smile while secretly seething.
There's nowhere to hide.
You cannot fake a raw quantum impression. It demands absolute authenticity.
Right.
Therefore, your degree of openness, your willingness to remain a humble tenant who harmonizes with the field rather than an owner who tries to exploit it, will directly determine whether this wider channel brings us closer to that phase change or simply accelerates our self-destruction.
It demands an evolution of character before the evolution of technology can safely take hold.
Beautifully said.
It means your internal state is no longer a private, isolated thing. It is public infrastructure.
Well, it always has been, mathematically speaking, but the slow speed of language masked the immediate consequences.
Ah, I see.
As Chowdhury notes, we are already inside this living feedback loop. What we receive from the world around us, how we process it internally, and what we return to the collective. This is already shaping the probabilities that become the very next moment of reality.
Wow.
The only difference is that, historically, the channel has been incredibly narrow. The consequences of our contracted states took generations to fully manifest.
But now the training wheels are coming off.
Yes.
Language has served us. It helped us survive, build cities, and develop the scientific method. But it has also completely limited us, bottlenecking the deepest parts of our shared humanity.
Absolutely.
As we start to transition away from syntax and toward raw transfer, as the channel widens and that ancient friction decreases, your everyday realizations are going to shape reality at a blistering pace.
And because the road remains the same, the fundamental loop of reception and expression, but the friction drops to zero, the tipping point that once seemed lifetimes away might actually draw nearer than any of us expected.
Yeah.
We are on the precipice of a very fast ride.
We really are. So to distill all of this down for you listening today, your quality of attention matters.
Right.
It matters profoundly.
More than ever.
It matters more today than it did yesterday, and it will matter exponentially more tomorrow. Because you aren't just an observer sitting in the audience of the universe. You are actively feeding the loop.
You are part of the system.
Every clear realization you have is conserved. Every time you choose to be a tenant rather than an owner, you're adding coherent information to the system, bringing us all one step closer to that fifth-dimensional possibility.
It is a profound reminder that the most revolutionary act you can participate in is simply cultivating a clear, honest, and uncontracted mind.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to chew on.
Oh, I love these.
Something that builds on Chowdhury's work, but takes it in a slightly different direction. We spent this entire time talking about the incredible evolutionary benefits of eliminating the lossy compression of language.
Right.
But if direct, frictionless mind-to-mind transfer becomes the everyday norm, what happens to the art of misunderstanding?
Oh, that is an intriguing angle.
Think about it. Throughout human history, a misunderstood word, a clumsy sentence, or a poorly translated poem has often sparked a completely original, accidental idea.
That's true.
A musician mishears a lyric and writes a groundbreaking song based on the mistake. A scientist misinterprets a colleague's note and discovers a new chemical compound.
Happy accidents.
Exactly. The friction of language creates beautiful mutations in our culture. So, if we eliminate that friction entirely, and we always perfectly understand one another's raw, uncompressed thoughts, do we also lose the happy accidents of human miscommunication?
That's just wild to think about.
Do we lose the very friction that makes abstract art, poetry, and unpredictable humor possible?
It is a beautiful paradox to consider. If the channel is perfectly clear, we lose the creative static that has defined so much of the human experience. We trade the poetry of longing for the clarity of absolute knowing.
Something to mull over the next time you find yourself struggling to find the right words. Maybe that struggle isn't just a bottleneck. Maybe it's the very thing making you uniquely human right now. Thank you so much for bringing such incredible mind-bending source material to the table today.
It was a pleasure.
Keep your channel wide, keep your attention clear, and we will see you on the next deep dive.